This is Jack Dennett inviting you to Maple Leaf Hockey Talks. Every year around mid-October, the fans converge on Maple Leaf Gardens, and the roar of the crowd is one of the most exciting sounds in Canada. Imagine now the year 1951, the date November 27th. High in the gondola above the ice in Maple Leaf Gardens, Foster Hewitt describes the play-by-play.
We're at the halfway mark in the second period. The score is tied 2-2, and the Canadians appear to be weakening. So far, Armstrong has been a standout, and he seems to be all set to make his mark in the NHL. All ready for the face-off. Bentley gets the draw, circles back to the blue line, swings over the left side. Here's the pass. Armstrong moves fast on the right side. He takes the pass on his skates. He moves it over the blue line. He's around Bouchard. He's right in on McNeil. He shoots. He scores!
15 years ago, a young hockey player scored his first goal in the National Hockey League. George Armstrong beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 with that goal, and it was a thrill he'll never forget.
I was playing on right wing with Max Bentley, who is now in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He gave me a pass at center ice, and I happened to be going at a pretty good clip at that time. I went around Butch Bouchard playing defense for Montreal and went in and shot a low one into the corner with Jerry McNeil. I did a little war dance that night, and I think everybody in Maple Leaf Gardens was pretty happy about it as well.
For George Armstrong, it was a dream come true, playing in the NHL. Maple Leaf Gardens was a long way from the place of his birth, Boland's Bay in northern Ontario.
I was born in Boland's Bay, July 6, 1930, which is 36 years ago. We moved to Falklands when I was about 1 year old, and I began to play hockey at 11. That was my first organized hockey team, which I played on.
At the team's annual banquet that year, George met one of his idols, Sil Epps, then captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
So I was captain of the Bantam hockey team, which I played for that year. We had won the district championship. Sil presented the cup to me, and as fate may have it, I came to the Maple Leafs, wore number 10, and became captain of the Maple Leafs. But that was a great thrill that night for me.
Even though he was scouted by the Boston Bruins, young George played a waiting game. He was convinced that someday the Leafs would come after him.
I had always been a Leaf fan when I was a youngster, and I was very confident of my playing ability at that time, and I thought perhaps that the Maple Leafs would come along and offer me a contract. As it did happen, they did come. They did offer me the contract. I signed. I was sent to Stratford my first year in the OHA, was lucky enough to win the scoring championship and the Most Valuable Player Award. Then I spent 2 years with Toronto Marlborough Juniors. At the conclusion of the final year with Marlborough Juniors, I played for the Marlborough Seniors. We went on to play against Calgary in the Allen Cup finals, and were lucky enough to beat them then also.
In 1950, George played a full season with Pittsburgh in the American League, and midway through the following season, he came up to the Leafs to stay.
Armstrong really made a great move there, going down the right wing and taking that pass just like a veteran. It was a great scoring play, and he looks as if he's going to be here for quite a long time, the way he handled that puck. And now Max Bentley is fishing that puck out of the net and handing it to him as a real souvenir.
There were many thrills to follow. 4 20-goal seasons, 3 Stanley Cup winners, and recognition that comes to a chosen few in hockey, being named team captain in 1957.
Well, being named team captain was a great thrill to me also, but I think the most important thing with being captain is to set a good example for the rest of the players on the team. Not necessarily by scoring the top number of goals on a team, but by trying as hard as you can at all times.
Another honor came Armstrong's way back in his amateur days, when an Indian tribe in Alberta named him Chief Shoot the Puck.
We had a day off during our Allen Cup finals in Calgary. The management of the hockey team decided to take us to Banff. Halfway there's a Stoney tribe of Indians. The Indian people at that tribe were very proud, I suppose, that I was Indian, and I was one of the better hockey players with the Allen Cup team. They made me an honorary Chief Shoot the Puck of their tribe, and I've carried the name Chief ever since that.
On December 19th, 1964, Chief Armstrong reached another milestone on the ice.
All ready for the face-off. Keon gets the draw. The Big M moves in on the left wing. He's in the corner. Armstrong is in front of the net. Here's the pass. He shoots. He scores! Armstrong was in the right place at the right time, and he made no mistakes. That's Armstrong's 200th goal. Quite a milestone in hockey.
I was very happy to score my 200th goal in the National Hockey League. When I began playing, I didn't expect to score that many, nor to play as long as I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are the 3 stars for tonight's game. The first star, George Armstrong. The second star is Davy Keon.
The first star, George Armstrong. That announcement has been heard countless times on Hockey Night in Canada. Team captain, team leader, and a tremendous team representative on and off the ice. George Armstrong, one of the finest of the Leafs.
When the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, George Armstrong, was just a bantam hockey player in Northern Ontario, he dreamed of a big league career. He followed the Leaf games on radio, just as you do nowadays on television, and he was convinced that someday he'd sign with the Leafs and become a star in the National Hockey League. George knows what it means to a youngster to meet an NHL player. That's why, every year, he travels north to the annual Minor Hockey League banquet in Falconbridge, where his own hockey career began. It gives him the chance to encourage young players like yourself and give them the benefits of his years of experience in Canada's national game.
Life as a player in the National Hockey League is great. It has given me many things, such as fame, personal satisfaction, and many of the material things that I wanted in life. To become a big leaguer, you must be prepared to do many things. You must be prepared to give up a lot of things which you would like to do, and you must be prepared to work hard at becoming a hockey player. You have to have desire, and you have to practice as hard as you can as well. By practice, I mean every chance you get to skate, you must work at it, and you must skate as long and as hard as you can. You have to practice shooting as much as you can also. You have to practice shooting with your wrists, and you have to practice accuracy. A hockey player who makes the National Hockey League has not made it easily. He has given up many things, and he has worked hard at it.
When George speaks to these wide-eyed youngsters in his hometown, he thinks back to the day when he was their age, and he had a chance to meet Sil Apps, the former Toronto Maple Leaf captain. Now George is the Leaf captain, and Punch Imlach claims he's the best team captain in the National Hockey League.
There are many intangibles that go to make up George's tremendous value to the Leafs. He has an inner strength which he quietly transmits to the rest of the team, and is particularly good at making rookies and newcomers welcome to our club. A good captain's main job takes place off the ice, and that's where Armstrong shines.
As team captain, George Armstrong feels obligated to set an example to the other players in the club. He does this by patrolling right wing to the very best of his ability.
Right wing is the position which I play. I'm not a left winger, nor am I a centerman. I should always be in position to take a pass on offense, and I should also always be in position to back check at all times. Scoring goals is very important, but it is just as important to stop goals as it is to score goals.
He also has a few thoughts on back checking, and one person in particular gives him a lot of trouble, Bobby Hull.
He is the toughest man in the league to check as far as I am concerned, because he plays the left wing. I try to stay about 4 or 5 feet away from him and not get too close to him, because he's very strong and he can push you off and beat you that way. I try to stay a half a step ahead of him at all times, because if I get even with him with his great speed, he can pull even with you very quickly and be past you before you know it. Naturally, I'm not always successful, but him being such a great goal scorer, if you stop him the majority of the time, you feel that you've done a pretty good job.
Many forwards fail to click in the National Hockey League because they neglect their back checking. Not George Armstrong. Punch Imlach says he's one of the best checkers in the club.
Every National Hockey League forward thinks mostly about scoring goals. But the real good ones know that you have to be able to check to stay in the National Hockey League. George learned this early, and all I can say is, if youngsters want to pick up the fundamentals of checking, they have only to watch George Armstrong.
A good checker usually makes for a good penalty killer. During his 15 years in the National Hockey League, George Armstrong has learned a great deal about this specialized aspect of hockey.
Penalty killing is a tough job if you don't have the right partner. Luckily for me, I kill penalties with Davy Kean, who is a fine skater and a fine man to anticipate the opposition's moves. When you work with another man, you have to have a system. Davy and I have our own system which we use on the opposing teams. Davy is the faster skater of the two, so I let him go in early 90% of the time, and he tries to force the man behind the net or wherever they may be to make the play to one particular side. I try to anticipate that side, and I move there perhaps a step or two ahead of time, and in this way we disorganize them as much as possible.
Let's summarize George Armstrong's hockey tips.